Then we get over to our power rankings, and these are the final four, of course, as we mentioned. You guys know the teams at home. Let's get into it. At number four for you, you have the reigning AFC champions and the Super Bowl champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. They got a big win last week against the Buffalo Bills. They heard all heard all the news and all the rumblings that Patrick Mahomes can't win on the road. Well, he did that, and of course, big shout out there to Tyler Bass for the Buffalo Bills missing it wide right, which is just a terrible phrase for all Buffalo Bills fans. But you have met four, I have met three. Thoughts about the Kansas City Chiefs here heading into the Final Four weekend?
And, I got KC at 4 just because just because I don't think that they're worse than every team. I'm kind of making these rankings based on who I think has the best shot of making and going all the way. KC has a lot harder path. I was close to putting them at 3 just because they played. I mean, they played the Dolphins and they played Buffalo in Buffalo, so I was close to giving them that number 3 spot. But I think the first two are kind of just like self-explanatory, and the third one is kind of interchangeable.
Yeah. At number three, I have them here, and I went back on what I did last week, which was ranking them in order of what I thought who would win the Super Bowl. I just did based off of who's the best team, and of course, if you watched earlier, I did take the Kansas City Chiefs to win this weekend. So I think that overall, the one or two team here has a better roster, but the Chiefs, I think, will win this weekend. And that's why I have them at number three. You never bet, or you never bet against Mahomes here in the postseason. At number three, you have the Detroit Lions. I have them at number four. And like you mentioned, three and four are so interchangeable. And honestly, if I were to make any adjustments to my list, it would be to swap these teams in the same order that you have them because the Lions, such a more complete team at this point in time. They're relatively healthy. I know they've had some injuries last week, but Sam Laporta is getting better, of course, after that knee injury. Frank Ragnow, he's tough. He's a veteran. He'll be ready to go this weekend. I just think overall a better complete roster, and they've looked better overall in this postseason run than the Kansas City Chiefs. But your thoughts here about the Detroit team?
Yeah, I mean, the Detroit's looked amazing. They kind of, impressed me a bit. I mean, I kind of knew, them playing against the Rams, that was kind of their way to get the jitters out. And I kind of knew, depending on what team they play, it'll be a coast to get to the NFC Championship.
Yeah. At number two, we have the team that beat Jordan Love barely. Of course, props to the Niners. They beat a top five quarterback in the game today, and Jordan Love, a guy who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, better than Brett Favre, better than Aaron Rodgers. Regardless, Jordan Love. You guys know, hey, I've been a fan of him since he was at Utah State, so I can do this. But the Niners, big win nonetheless. I think the hardest win for the one seeds in the playoffs is what I'm realizing is that first game against
Yeah.
whoever they play. Whether if it's a 7 seed or whoever it is, the hardest game is that first game, and then these next couple games, they're settled into this playoff atmosphere, and I think they can lock in because let's not forget some of these players had 2-3 weeks off before that Packers game. So I think just getting back used to this playoff atmosphere, the Niners could look back to normal this weekend and better than ever. But your thoughts here about the Niners and why are they not number one?
Yeah, I mean, they're not number one because they haven't shown that they're better than the number one team. And just like you just said, that first game for these one seeds, for these high seeds winning that first game, you even see Baltimore. That first half, Baltimore did not look good. I mean, like they were close to, trailing going into the second half. Second half, they turned it up, but like you even saw, that first half, they were getting the rust out. I think the Niners team was getting the rust out against the Packers because that Packers team looked legit, man. Like, I think the Packers would have gave just as much trouble, if not beat the Lions, if they would have matched up.
Surprisingly, I would take the Packers in a matchup over the Lions,
Yeah.
just because of that confidence boost. You beat the 1 seed and the 2 seed on the route to try and beat the 3 seed, which is also a division foe. But at number one, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, we didn't want to get cute here. We didn't want to, go too crazy. The Baltimore Ravens have been the best team in football since they beat the 49ers. You can argue even before that. But they're at number one here until they prove otherwise. And to me, I think it's this weekend when the Chiefs take them down in M&T Bank Stadium. But Amir, your thoughts here about number one and your list here. The last week of power rankings, by the way.
Man, it's the last week, but San Fran, shout out Brock Purdy. He beat Jordan Love. Brock Purdy's officially the greatest quarterback in Niners history. Hopefully he can pull it off this weekend. But man, I think looking at these two matchups, I think Baltimore, is at less chance of an upset. San Fran, they're great and all, but Baltimore just has the edge in my opinion.